Welcome into Seattle Seahawks Today. I am Tom Downey alongside my boy Tyler Jones with the latest on the Seattle Seahawks after a rather crazy NFL day that involved I'm going to call it chaotic Tyreek Hill trade. And now there's wonders on the future of DK Metcalf. But Tyler, head coach Pete Carroll, says the Seahawks want to keep Metcalf on this team.
Yeah, he did a local radio interview in Seattle, doubling down on not wanting to trade Metcalf, and he reiterated that Metcalf entering that last year of his contract could be a top 5 wide receiver in this league. And we'll get you the exact quote of what he had to say. This was on 710 ESPN Radio in Seattle, saying, "It's really important to us. We love him. He maybe will go down as one of the great draft picks we've ever had here. He was a second-round pick, might I add you. We are going to do everything we can to get it done." That is head coach Pete Carroll on DK Metcalf. And the way I look at it, Tom, is simply put, DK Metcalf through 3 seasons in the National Football League is a franchise wide receiver. And I look at his natural ability along with the body that he's been given by God, and you're talking about a guy that I think looks like the second coming of Calvin Johnson. I really do. I think this is a franchise wide receiver that you can build your team around. Look at the numbers the last 3 seasons for Metcalf. We're talking about this past year. He had close to 1,000 yards receiving without Russell Wilson for 3 games this year, and still had more touchdowns than he's ever had in any season prior in his career. The year before that, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. His rookie year, 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. He has been terrific through his first 3 seasons in the league, Tom.
I'm in complete agreement with you there, Tyler. I think Metcalf is one of the best receivers in the NFL. He's young, and I know this team is rebuilding, but I don't think this is the type of player you trade. Even if you are rebuilding, that's the guy you build around. So I know other fan bases want DK Metcalf, which is indicative of how they feel about him. Now, we're going to talk about the contract side here in a second because it'll change today. But what do you guys think? Should the Seahawks extend DK Metcalf? Type in Y for yes or type in N for no. This is the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get that ad break here on YouTube, while the ad plays, take advantage of it. Head down there, type in your Y or your N at that pinned comment. Now, the news today was all about Tyreek Hill and his big fat new contract, etc. 4 years, $120 million with $72.2 million guaranteed. What this does, Tyler, is completely reset the wide receiver market. And I assume you're still on board extending DK Metcalf, even if it costs you conservatively, let's say $25 million per year.
DK, name your price. You're that good. I am that sold on bringing DK Metcalf back in a long-term deal that you bring him back. The market got reset today with Tyreek Hill getting that deal with the Miami Dolphins with the blockbuster trade that occurred, but I don't think that changes things for Seattle. Maybe you have to pay him more than you would have otherwise with what we've seen from the wide receiver market, with what guys have been paid this offseason, but you still have to keep him around no matter what, Tom.
I completely agree, and I'll also make this note. This is why I like to be operate with urgency in my free agency
yes.
decisions. If he is eligible, he wasn't going to sign it, but if you were able to sign it, you could have made DK Metcalf a $21 million man a month ago, and people would have gone, that's too much money. And now they'd gone, oh, that's a great deal.
Tom, I like to call it the Dak Prescott rule, right?
Nailed it. To an extent to Russell Wilson, like the sooner you pay players, it might seem expensive now. It ends up being cheap, though, in the long run. We got a deal for you guys here from our friends over at Fanatics. Hats and beanies as well. For a limited time only, 40% off at chatsports.com/Seahawks hats. I actually don't like camo very often, but I actually think that one with that particular Seahawks logo looks really awesome.
It's gnarly.
Yeah, chatsports.com/Seahawks hats. That link will be in the comment section and in the description. Beanies and even certain items that include more than just a hat. For example, the t-shirt beanie combo right there, long sleeve t-shirt beanie combo, up to 40% off, limited time only. So go check it out. chatsports.com/Seahawks hats. Big time deal there for you guys. Again, chatsports.com/Seahawks hats. Some news as well Tyler, is Justin Coleman back with Seattle on a one-year deal, a reunion of sorts for the potential starter at nickel corner.
Yeah, let's look at this tweet from Corbin K. Smith, who covers the National Football League, and here's how he described Coleman. He said Coleman allowed 0 touchdowns on 39 targets last year. That's according to Pro Football Focus. He picked off 2 passes and had a pass breakup. Missed tackles were a huge problem, but otherwise he remains a solid nickel corner here. So you add him to what I think, Tom, is just a desperate secondary here for the Seattle Seahawks. They have some serious issues when you look at what they have to work with. And they spent all that money on Jamal Adams at that strong safety spot, but yet he didn't have that great of a year last year. And you look at who you have to work with between Trey Brown and Sidney Jones and Quandre Diggs. There's just not a whole lot of options here. The deal that they got here to go ahead and bring Coleman on at what we don't think is going to cost a whole lot here, I think is quite a bargain for just a desperate unit for the Seahawks.
I'd be shocked if this came in over $5 million a year. It might be more like 2 or 3 potentially, depending on how they structure it. I think nickel corner's fine. You've got options. Justin Coleman could start there. Maybe it's Ugo Amadi. Maybe it's Marquise Blair. Please blitz Jamal Adams more. I beg of you guys once again. It's the outside cornerback spot. That's what concerns me right now, where Sidney Jones can be one starter. You didn't want to pay DJ Reed. He felt insulted by your offer. At least that's what he said, which that's a longer, more in-depth conversation maybe for a different day in terms of whether that was accurate or not. But Trey Brown's the other guy. Coleman, I think, is going to handle the nickel corner role. I don't, at least be an option, I should say, at the nickel corner spot. That's great. He can handle that. That's fine. But I do worry about the outside. I agree with you there, Tyler, that they don't like investing in it, and it might hurt them again this year.
Especially that division with all the talent,
Yeah.
those receivers and great quarterbacks there. Oh, can't feel good about it.
Yeah. All right, folks, if you have not already, subscribe for more Seahawks coverage. We have passed the 25,000 subscriber mark. Thank you all so much. It's 26K, though. Me, Tyler Jones, will keep you guys covered. Pretty much daily videos on the Seattle Seahawks, whether it's the news, the rumors, free agency, or the draft as well, right here on Seattle Seahawks Today. And speaking of the draft, Mel Kiper has put out his latest NFL mock draft. We all thought, Seattle's not going to have anything to do. Well, then they trade Russell Wilson, and now they got a top 10 pick. So let's run through the first 8 picks. Then we'll break down Seattle's side here. Aiden Hutchinson, number 1 to the Jags. Kyle Hamilton to the Lions. Ike Mekwonu to the Texans. Drake London, number 4 to the Jets. Okay, it's weird. Evan Neal to the Giants, along with Kayvon Thibodeau at 7, so 2 steals there. Trayvon Walker at number 6 to the Panthers, which, not offense, feels a need, though, there. Garrett Wilson, and then number 9, the Seahawks are on. Before we break down Kiper's pick here, Tyler, notable players on the board. Charles Cross, the offensive tackle out of Mississippi State. Ahmad Gardner, the Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati, we were just talking about, we're worried about corners. Take care of your needs. Derek Stingley is on the board there.
A lot of hype about Stingley.
There is, certainly. There's, Johnson is the next best edge. The edges went off early, so maybe not that route. If you want to fix center forever, Tyler Linderbaum is there. So we'll get to Kiper's pick here. But first, who would you guys draft? Type CC for Charles Cross. Type AG for Ahmad Sauce Gardner. DS for Derek Stingley. TL for Tyler Linderbaum. Or JJ for Jermaine Johnson. Sound off for us in the comment section. You guys pick CC. That was the pick here. There you go. That was the pick for Mel Kiper as, look, it fixes the left tackle spot, right?
All right. Yeah, Charles Cross would fill a major need for this Seahawks team. We talked about it on yesterday's show, how Russell Wilson was running for his life for much of last year, and they need to fill this position some way, somehow or another here. And the way that I look at this, guys, is that when you look at the draft, and this being not the best draft we've seen by any stretch, and there's not an obvious choice here, when in doubt, take an offensive tackle. I don't think that you would be regretting doing so. Here is a quote here from Mel Kiper Jr. on the idea of bringing Cross to Seattle. He said, "I don't think Coach Pete Carroll and company want to rebuild. It seems they want to give it a go with Locke at quarterback and try to win. That's why I don't see quarterback being an option here. Carroll and general manager John Schneider can instead use this pick on an early starter." He goes on to say, Cross could step in for veteran Dwayne Brown at left tackle. He's a superb pass blocker who dominated in the SEC. Seattle, which surrounded its original first-round pick in the Jamal Adams trade, has back-to-back round 2 picks. That's numbers 40 and 41 to add potential starters there. So with that said, think about the Lions last year in the position that they were in, where they ended up going with Penei Sewell with that pick there. And although it wasn't the flashy pick for the Detroit Lions necessarily when they had some obvious needs, they may have found their starting left tackle there for a decade plus for that team. So I think this is a situation here where, sure, you do have some other needs on this roster, but this feels something that can take care of business for a long time. Not something that's the sexy pick, but the smart pick here, I think, for the Seattle Seahawks, Tom. And not only Mel Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah also had Cross as the pick here.
I got to go back and look at my most recent mock because I can't remember if I went edge or tackle. It was Cross. I think I went Cross, and I think Kiper's got Cross pegged pretty well here. This was a player who, entering this year, draft community nerds like myself were like, he could be a first-round pick. He's got the athletic traits. He has to take the step forward. He went from 6 sacks, 5 hits, and 33 hurries allowed last year to 2 sacks and 14 hurries. That is massive improvement, and it does fix, in theory, your left tackle spot. Seems like the organization likes Jake Curran a little bit at right tackle. I don't think many people outside of Seattle know who that is, but I do think that Cross in there at left tackle would fix that spot for a long time.
And he did in the SEC, too.
Yeah.
Going up against Alabama, Texas A&M, LSU, Georgia, those teams, he faced the best of the best in the AAA version of the NFL, essentially. So, yeah, I think that you have to feel a little bit better about Cross, knowing the competition he faced compared to some of the other guys maybe you would think of in that spot.
All right, so who do you guys think the Seahawks should draft in the first round? Knowing Pete Carroll, I'd also keep an eye out for Trevor Penning. He's got that mindset and style that I think coaches are going to love in the NFL. But let me know what you guys think. Maybe it's the QB, Malik Willis. Who should the Seahawks draft in the first round of this year's NFL draft?